Now that working with video in Photoshop is so accessible, it's a great way to just start a project and jump in, whether it's a high definition video you're working on or something that you shot with your iPhone that you want to share online. Let's get started. Well, I've got Photoshop set up, and the first thing I think I'm going to do is change my workspace. And I'm going to use the default workspace called Motion. And it just draws to attention some tools that I might want to use, including the timeline tool. Next thing is pretty amazing is that if I was in a bridge or perhaps just had some files on my desktop, I can drag and drop those files right into Photoshop and it creates a movie. I can use my space bar to play them. I can use the escape to break it off, and if I had sound on the movie, it would play with it as well, which is just amazing. I could even scrub the playhead around here just to see that effect. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this. Another option that I could do is I could go ahead and File, New, and create a video. I'm going to use a preset here, Film and Video, and if you look at the drop-down, there is just a lot of different options you can use to get started. But I'm going to use this HDV option, the default. It keeps it simple. Go ahead and click on OK. And then I'm going to click Create Video Timeline. And now I've got this layer that I can use, and I'm going to start adding in some video elements. So as far as adding the elements in here, let me go and change this to the details. I've got this water, here we go, this water movie. Go ahead and bring that one in. And it brings it in for me. If I move the playhead a little bit, I can see it in there. And I'm going to bring in another one, add a media group. And I've got actually a version before and after. I'm going to bring in both of them. I'll just hold down the control key rather to select both of them and bring them in. They're a little bit shorter. Now these are all grouped together, which means that they're going to be playing one after the other, which is really nice, as opposed to at the same time. And this purple part here is actually referring to a separate object. That's that blank layer. One of the things I could do is I could bring the blank layer and move it outside of the video group, and then it could be playing at the same time consecutively, as opposed to I should say it could be playing simultaneously as opposed to consecutively with these other objects. But I'm going to go and actually delete that object in there. Now these are all showing me the time, and they're very short videos, but I could still expand that to make it a little bit easier to see. And so as I move these sliders here, it gives me a little bit more information, just makes it easier for me to drag and drop these items together. I can also change the order. If I simply drag and drop them in my layers panel here, I can move them in any order that I want, which I think is just fabulous. I'm noticing that this water one is just a different sizing of my other options. If I go ahead and play over here, you can see it's not quite the size that I want. So what I'm going to do is, with the water, I'm going to transform it. Now, interesting enough, when I go to Edit Transform, Scale, I get this warning I need to convert to a smart object. And that way I'm not actually distorting the original video. I'm just changing a version of it. Something strange is happening. Let's see if this looks like I got a little bit of, there we go. And I might need to adjust the duck pond too. It looks like some things got moved around a little bit here. I'm just going to position that in place. Maybe nudge would work. I'm using my arrow keys to nudge that in place. And the same thing with the other item. Let's go here and there we go. Looks good. Okay, so now I can kind of cycle through. Now another thing that's really nice about this is you can adjust the in time and the out time. So right here is the start point, called it the in time, and I can just drag it. And notice how the timeline shifts for me, but it's actually adjusting that in time. And here's the out time. I can drag that in, so I could change the duration of it. Now this particular video, there is not a lot of change, not a lot of action going on, But what you could do is you could keep the duration, but what's called slip editing, you could control the start and end time. If you hold down Control and Alt while you drag, you're actually able to change the start and end time, and you can kind of see that preview. Now we can try that here with this other video, which has more action going on, but it's just a lot shorter. But I'm going to go ahead and change that end time, and then Control Alt drag. Maybe if I move my playhead out here, Control Alt drag, and again that's that slip editing to make changes. Okay. And we can always use our history, our undo, or Control Z to go back in time. Now, in addition to these consecutive playing, we could add some transition effects with the timeline. And here's a feature where we have a transition. We need a drag to apply. So one example would be a crossfade. I just need to choose how many seconds I want this to be. And how about 1 second? Put a crossfade in there. And watch what happens when we play it. You can see how it fades to the other movie. I could also add a transition where I choose a fade with black. I'll put that right in here. Looks like maybe my there it goes. Let me try that one more time. And I'll do the fade with black, or here we go, fade with black. I'll put it in the front, and it'll be easier to see. And you can actually see that triangle as we're fading it. And you can see how it's fading in, and there's that crossfade. And I can even click on that fade command if I wanted to. Right click on it, and I could change the duration after it's been added. Now at the very bottom, there's this feature where I can convert this to frame animation. This is a feature that is for the Photoshop Extended program. And let me just show you something would happen if you were to, not necessarily, well, let's actually convert this one. And you can see how it's bringing up the different frames, one for each item. But you can also create a new project. Oops. You can also create a new project by doing the File Import Video to Frames to Layers. And this is going to be a really handy feature if you wanted to bring in all that footage and capture all the information. Now I could bring in the entire video clip. This one isn't that long. Or I could actually narrow it down. It's nice that I can kind of preview this as I'm going through to see how much I want. And there's a part where the duck starts to calm down a little bit and swim, and that maybe is how much I want without bringing everything in. Select that range, that range only, make frame animation, click on OK. And a new file got created, and this is using timeline, or excuse me, this is using some frames instead of a video, and each option is a new state, and you can see that, and you can of course play them sequentially or stop, so it acts a little bit more like animation than video. I'm going to go back here to this button and reset that. So you saw how you could create projects in the timeline and also work with videos in frames. Now it's time for a pop quiz. How do you add transitions to a video clip? A, drag and drop. B, control-click the transitions. C, right-click the video clip and choose Add Transition. D, filter transitions. The answer is A. Drag and drop transitions such as the fade to black onto the video clip.